Welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving into something pretty interesting, I think, this idea of kingdoms of glory.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those concepts that makes you think about, well, like life after death and all
It
that.
really does make you think, yeah.
And we're drawing all this from a talk by a leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right.
Now, we won't be getting into, like, theological debates or anything.
Right.
But the ideas themselves are really fascinating, even if you're just looking at them like from a purely philosophical point of view.
I agree.
Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. This concept really makes you question those traditional heaven and hell notions, doesn't it? It's a much more nuanced perspective on the afterlife.
Yeah, totally. So forget the usual binary, just heaven and hell.
Right.
This talk outlines not one heaven and hell, but three distinct kingdoms of glory.
Okay.
Celestial, terrestrial, and telestial.
Interesting.
And it's even more complex than that. Imagine like the celestial kingdom, but it has tiers within it, with the highest level being exaltation. It's not just about getting in, it's about where you end up within that kingdom.
And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Right.
Your spot in the afterlife isn't determined by a tally of, like, good deeds versus bad.
Okay.
It's about the laws you choose to live by, aligning yourself with the very essence of a particular kingdom.
So it's less about checking off good deeds on a, celestial to-do list, and more about embodying a certain set of principles, almost like choosing your own societal rules, but for eternity. Now, that raises the question, what does living by a particular law actually look like in practice?
It's a fascinating concept, isn't it? For example, imagine the celestial kingdom being governed by laws of pure love, empathy, and knowledge.
Good.
Aligning yourself with that kingdom means embodying those qualities in every facet of your life.
Right.
How you treat others, how you seek truth, how you approach challenges.
So it's about internalizing those principles, weaving them into the very fabric of your being. That's quite different from a checklist mentality. Now let's unpack these kingdoms, starting with the celestial kingdom, the penthouse suite of the afterlife, as it were.
Right.
What sets it apart?
Think of it as a realm of unimaginable glory. The source material describes it as a place where individuals strive to become more godlike, developing divine attributes through sacred covenants and ordinances,
Okay.
and the ultimate goal, exaltation,
Wow.
a state of eternal life with God. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints places significant emphasis on achieving this exalted state.
And they connect this directly to their 1995 family proclamation,
Yeah,
right?
you do.
It's not just about individual progression, but about families achieving exaltation together.
Exactly. While we won't delve into the entire document, the source highlights the core tenets of the family proclamation, the sanctity of marriage, the importance of family relationships. It emphasizes that these relationships aren't just for this life, they're meant to be eternal.
Okay. They are believed to be crucial for achieving the highest degree of glory in the celestial kingdom.
So family ties aren't just for earthly comfort. They're woven into the very fabric of eternal progression in their belief system.
And this is where we see how beliefs about the afterlife can profoundly influence actions in this life.
Right.
It's not just a philosophical pondering, it's a driving force for how they structure their lives, relationships, and choices.
It really makes you think about how our beliefs can shape, everything we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's shift gears for a sec.
Okay.
What about those other kingdoms of glory, the terrestrial and the telestial? We haven't really touched on those much.
Yeah, they don't get as much attention in this talk, that's for sure.
Right.
The celestial kingdom is definitely like the main focus here, but
Right.
there are definitely some interesting insights about the other realms.
Okay.
Imagine the terrestrial kingdom as like a place of total peace.
Okay.
And you've got the presence of the sun,
Right.
like tranquility, serenity.
It's a step down from the celestial kingdom in terms of the level of glory,
Okay.
but it's still a positive experience. It's not a bad place to be at all.
Okay. So not a bad place to be.
Yeah.
But what about the telestial kingdom? This is where the talk gets a little more intense, maybe, with the language?
Yeah, you could say that.
Right.
It definitely doesn't sugarcoat things.
No, not really.
It uses terms like, liars and sorcerers,
Yeah.
even whoremongers.
Right.
It's painting a picture of those who might find themselves in this kingdom.
Right.
Essentially, those who lived without embracing Christ or, divine law.
Right. Those are pretty strong words, It makes you wonder, what leads someone to that outcome?
Yeah.
It's not just about being bad,
Yeah.
but about rejecting a certain way of life, right?
Exactly. And it goes back to that idea of aligning yourself with a certain set of principles.
Right.
It suggests that the experiences of the Telestial Kingdom are a natural consequence of, like, rejecting those higher laws. And it even hints that it's not exactly a peaceful place. It might even be kind of chaotic and unstable.
So each kingdom is kind of a reflection of the choices made in life. It's not about some judgmental being deciding our fate, but about like resonating with a certain spiritual frequency. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good way to put it.
It makes you think about those who might not have had the chance to learn about these kingdoms or maybe feel like they've made some mistakes along the way.
Right.
Is there any hope for them? Is this life like the only shot we get?
Well, the talk does touch on that a bit.
Okay.
It hints at the possibility of continued progression even after death.
Really?
Yeah, it suggests that, like, just because you die, that doesn't mean your spiritual journey is over.
Okay, so there might be hope for those who like discover these ideas later in life or wish they had made different choices. So what does that look like, this continued progression after death?
Well, the talk mentions something called the millennium, which is like this 1,000-year period after the second coming of Christ, right?
Right.
And it describes this time when those who have passed can participate in ordinances.
What does that mean? Ordinances.
It's like they can essentially make up for opportunities they might have missed during their lives.
Oh, interesting. So even after death, there's a chance to learn and grow and maybe even move towards a higher kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of reassuring, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It suggests that we don't just stop learning and growing when we die.
It's a much more, I don't know, hopeful view of things.
Yeah, definitely.
It emphasizes that God is about like helping us reach our full potential, not just waiting to punish us.
Absolutely.
And that connects to this idea of agency, which the talk brings up a lot.
Right.
Like, it's our choice where we end up.
Yes. It all comes down to individual choice.
It's not about being forced to do a certain kingdom or relationship or anything.
Exactly.
It's about us getting to choose what we want and what we believe in.
Right. It suggests that real joy comes from making our own choices about what we think is right.
It really puts the power in our hands, huh?
Yeah.
This idea that we're ultimately responsible for where we end up.
I know, right? It's a lot to consider.
It's not about some, like, judgmental deity deciding our fate, though. It's more about us, like aligning ourselves with the principles that really resonate with us at our core.
Exactly. It's about recognizing how important our choices are, not just in this life, but in the eternities, right? It's like we're creating our eternal selves.
You hear people talk about, like, living your truth and all that.
Right.
This takes it to a whole new level. Like,
Yeah.
the very essence of who we are shapes our experience in the afterlife. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about those big questions.
Yeah, it really does. What matters most to me?
Right, right.
What do I want to define my existence? Not just now, but forever.
It's a lot to unpack, for sure. And it just goes to show, there are so many different ways of understanding these things.
Yeah. Very.
Even within Christianity, you have a lot of different beliefs. These ideas, they might not be for everyone, but it's an interesting way to look at life and our purpose.
It really is. It makes you think, like, what would bring me the most joy in the celestial kingdom?
I like that.
What would I miss if I wasn't there? What parts of that really resonate with who I want to be?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
It really is.
Yeah.
And on that note, dear listener, we're going to have to wrap things up for today.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
It really has. We've barely scratched the surface of this whole Kingdoms of Glory concept.
So much to explore there.
Right. So we encourage you to, check out the source material, sit with these ideas, and see where they lead you.
Exactly. Keep the exploration going.
Absolutely. Until next time, on the deep dive.